They do not talk about money. They never have. And that silence, that complete, deliberate, generations-deep refusal to discuss wealth openly, is itself one of the most powerful signals of just how much there is. The British royal family does not live like the rich. They do not live like the ultra-rich. They live in a category so far beyond the conventional understanding of wealth that the word billionaire does not fully capture it. Because when you factor in the castles, the crown jewels, the land, the art, the private estates, the duchies, the investments, and the institutional assets that have been accumulating since before most modern nations existed, you are not looking at billions. You are looking at something that edges, by certain calculations, toward the territory of trillions. And almost all of it is inherited, protected by centuries of legal architecture, and entirely beyond the reach of any single government decision. This is how the British royal family actually lives. And the numbers, when laid out clearly, are staggering. Start with the property. Because the royal family does not simply own homes. They own palaces, castles, working estates, and entire portfolios of land that would constitute a sovereign wealth fund if they belonged to a government rather than a family. Buckingham Palace alone is valued at an estimated £2 billion. This is not a number from a real estate listing. The palace is not for sale and has never been for sale. But independent property valuations have consistently placed it in that range when accounting for its size, location in the heart of London, and the impossibility of replicating it. It contains 775 rooms. It sits on 40 acres in one of the most valuable postcodes on Earth. The maintenance costs alone run into tens of millions of pounds annually and are covered through the sovereign grant, public funding allocated to the monarchy by the government each year. Windsor Castle, the oldest and largest occupied castle in the world, adds another significant figure to the ledger. Sandringham in Norfolk, Balmoral in Scotland, which was privately purchased by Queen Victoria in 1852 and has remained private royal family property ever since. Highgrove, the private estate associated with King Charles. Clarence House, Kensington Palace, which houses multiple royal residences within its walls. The property portfolio, when assembled in full, represents a concentration of prime real estate that no private individual anywhere on Earth can match. Then there is the Crown Estate, and this is where the numbers become genuinely difficult to process. The Crown Estate is a collection of properties and land across the United Kingdom that belongs to the reigning monarch by virtue of the Crown. It includes vast stretches of central London real estate, almost the entire seabed of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland out to 12 nautical miles. Significant rural land holdings, retail parks, and commercial property across the country. Its total value sits at approximately £16 billion, and it generates revenues of over £3 billion annually. The arrangement around the Crown Estate is constitutionally complex. The revenues go to the government in exchange for the sovereign grant, but the assets belong to Crown institutionally, connecting the royal family to one of the largest property portfolios in the world through centuries of legal continuity that no modern legal challenge has successfully dismantled. The crown jewels sit in the Tower of London behind some of the most sophisticated security in the world, and they have never been independently valued in any meaningful sense, because they are considered priceless in the most literal interpretation of that word. The Imperial State Crown alone contains 2,901 gemstones, including the famous Cullinan II diamond. The entire collection, if it were ever hypothetically brought to market, which it will not be and legally cannot be, would represent a figure that defies any reasonable comparable in the history of private asset ownership. The royal collection of art and furniture contains over 1 million objects, including works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Leonardo da Vinci, and Canaletto. It is one of the largest and most significant art collections in the world, and it belongs to the crown rather than any individual, passing automatically from one monarch to the next as part of the institutional inheritance that defines how royal wealth actually operates. The personal wealth layer sits beneath all of this institutional wealth and is more modest by comparison, though modest is a word that requires significant qualification in this context. The late Queen Elizabeth II's personal estate was estimated at between £400 and £500 million at the time of her death, representing private investments, private property, personal jewelry, and assets accumulated through careful private wealth management across 7 decades on the throne. This transferred to King Charles with significant inheritance tax protections that are available to the monarchy specifically and are not available to any other family in the United Kingdom. King Charles himself, before his accession, was already one of the wealthiest individuals in Britain to the Duchy of Cornwall, a private estate of approximately 112,000 acres, generating tens of millions of pounds of annual income that funds the activities of the heir to the throne. That income passed to Prince William upon Charles's accession, continuing a financial structure that has operated uninterrupted since 1337. What makes royal wealth different from the wealth of any billionaire, however vast their fortune, is its permanence. A billionaire's wealth is tied to markets, to businesses, to valuations that can change. It can be lost, diluted, restructured, or destroyed by decisions, events, and forces outside their control. Royal wealth is institutional. It is structural. It is embedded in legal frameworks developed over centuries specifically to ensure its continuity, regardless of what happens in the world around it. The palaces do not depreciate. The land does not disappear. The crown jewels do not go out of fashion. The collection does not face a hostile board. This is wealth that does not just survive generations. It compounds them, quietly, legally, and entirely by design. Subscribe now, because next week we're going inside the private lives of European royalty, the spending habits, the private jets, the yachts, and estates that never make the official royal calendar. Drop a comment below telling us which part of the royal family's wealth surprised you most. We will see you in the next one.